Keep away from Christmas, Dad texted bluntly. We're done with you, my sister added with a laughing emoji. I shot back, fine, I'll stop covering the bills. 5 minutes later, I cut off every payment tied to their cards. They were giggling in the chat, but they have no idea what will happen next. I've never hated anyone the way I hated them that night. Christmas used to mean something to me. Not the gifts or the decorations, but the idea that at least once a year we could pretend to be a real family. Even if things were tense the rest of the time, even if there were silent fights or awkward dinners, I always thought Christmas was off limits. A kind of fragile truce we didn't speak about, but respected. This year, I should have seen it coming. 3 weeks before the 25th, I stopped helping with the bills. Not out of spite. I just wanted to see what would happen if I didn't volunteer. Would they ask how I was doing? Would anyone call? Would my dad just once offer to help me? Of course not. What I got instead was a text playing almost mechanical. Stay away from Christmas. The family is tired of you. That was it. No context, no warning. Just those 2 sentences like I was some outsider trying to invite myself to someone else's party. Then Jessica, my golden child, never wrong, always perfect little sister, reacted with a laughing emoji in the family group chat. That stupid yellow face bouncing up and down like this was the punchline to some joke I hadn't been let in on. They were sitting there, probably on the couch together, feeling proud of themselves. Dad had always favored her. She could do no wrong, not even when she totaled her car while texting or when she dropped out of school for the second time. I covered her loans. I paid for her last-minute dentist appointment when she cried about not being able to eat. I even bought her groceries last month because she said she was in between jobs. I did all of that because I thought maybe, just maybe, she'd start treating me like a sister instead of a bank account. I didn't cry when I read the message. I didn't even feel sad. I just went ice cold. It was like something inside me shut off. So, I typed one line back, then I'll stop touching the bills. Not dramatic, not emotional, just a fact. They didn't answer. Not immediately. Maybe they didn't believe me. Maybe they thought I was bluffing. But I went straight to work. First, Jessica's student loans. I'd set up autopay months ago when she was too overwhelmed to figure it out herself. Gone. Then her car insurance, hence Dad's truck insurance. Remove my card. Internet, the one they all used. Even the cousins staying in their guest room disconnected. Water, electricity, streaming services. Everything I had set up, managed, or paid for, gone. They kept chatting in the group, sending memes, pretending nothing had happened. At one point, Jessica sent a TikTok of someone doing a little happy dance. And Dad responded with a thumbs up. They were actually celebrating, and they still didn't know. They didn't know about the gifts. I'd already bought Jessica a used Toyota Corolla, $12,000 cash. I found it through a friend of a friend. The title was already transferred to her name. I even had a giant red bow in my attic, the kind you see in car commercials, because I wanted to surprise her in front of the whole family. For Dad, I'd ordered a custom gold watch, simple, classic, expensive. Engraved on the back, it said, "To the best dad." I'd spent hours choosing the right font. Both gifts were hidden in my house. I'd been so excited. It was going to be the Christmas where I finally got it right. The one where I showed them how much I cared, and maybe for once they'd see me, but they ruined it. And they were still laughing. So, I took pictures of the car, of the watch in its black velvet box. I made sure the engraving was clear. And I sent them to the family group chat. Not just Dad and Jessica, but everyone. Aunts, uncles, cousins, all of them. No caption, just the photos. Let them connect the dots. What happened after that? Well, things got interesting. The group chat went dead. I mean, completely dead. No emojis, no sarcastic comments, not even a from Jessica. That never happened in our family chat. Normally, it was constant noise, memes, inside jokes, updates about whose kid was sick or who got a promotion. But after my photos dropped in there, it was like somebody had cut the cord, and that silence hit harder than their laughing ever did. I sat there staring at my phone, almost willing it to light up again. I knew what they were all seeing. A spotless silver Toyota sitting in my garage under a bough. The title already signed to Jessica. The box of the gold watch open on my kitchen table. The engraving "To the best dad" shining under the light. All of it captured in perfect clarity. No captions, no explanations. Just proof. First came Aunt Linda. She broke the silence with Emily. "Is this real?" Then Uncle Mark. "You bought them a car." My cousin Nina sent a shocked emoji, then a message. "Wait, what is going on?" Then my mom wrote the one thing that nearly made me break. I'm so sorry. I just stared at it. Mom had always stayed out of it. Neutral. Quiet. The peacemaker who tried to keep Dad from blowing up and Jessica from getting too smug. Seeing her write, that felt like watching a dam crack. The rest of the relatives piled in, and the tone shifted. It wasn't curiosity anymore. It was anger. Real anger. They wanted to know what was happening. Why Dad had sent that message. Why Jessica was laughing. Why I was the one who always gave, and they were the ones who always took. Jessica tried to backpedal. This is out of context. Emily's being dramatic. He always does this. Then Dad tried his hand at it. We never asked for those gifts. She does things for attention. That's when I decided to end the performance. I didn't scream. I didn't insult. I just told the truth. I typed out every payment I'd made over the past year. Jessica's car repairs, her student loans, her dentist bill, Dad's insurance, the water, the power, the internet, the streaming accounts. Every time I bailed them out. Every time I was told I was overreacting when I asked for a thank you. One by one, line by line, no drama, just facts. Enough to make the whole chat go still again. Then my cousin, sent me a private message. We've all seen how they treat you. We just didn't realize how far it went. That one made my throat tighten because part of me had always thought nobody noticed that I was the only one keeping track. Mom called. I ignored it the first time. When she called again, I picked up. She didn't even say hello. She just breathed for a moment and then said she was coming over. She arrived an hour later with a pie she'd baked. She didn't even take off her coat, just sat on my couch while I stared at the floor. She said, "They're going to try and spin this. They're going to play the victims. You know that, right?" I nodded. I'd been expecting it. The fake apologies, the public displays of regret, though we didn't mean it like that speeches they'd give in the group chat once they realized everyone had turned against them. This time, though, I wasn't going to be the one backing down. What Mom didn't know, what none of them knew, was that the car and the watch weren't the only surprises I had lined up. I'd been planning my exit for months without even realizing it. Cutting the financial strings was just the first part. And as the group chat started blinking again with Jessica's frantic explanations and Dad's blustering attempts to look innocent, I felt something new. Not anger, not hurt, power. They had no idea how much control I'd had over their lives. And they were about to find out. By morning, they'd gone from laughing to begging. It started with Jessica because, of course, it did. Her message showed up at 7:42 a.m. like she couldn't wait another second to start damage control. It was a multi-paragraph apology complete with run-on sentences, spelling mistakes, and emotional manipulation. She claimed the laughing emoji was about something else. Said the message from Dad looked worse than it sounded, and that this is all one big misunderstanding. I read it twice, not because I was considering forgiving her. I just wanted to see how far she'd twist herself to avoid saying the one thing she should have said from the beginning. I was wrong. He never said that. Not once. 10 minutes later, Dad chimed in. His tone was different. He didn't try to excuse it. He just deflected. Said I took things too personally. That I blew it all out of proportion. And that family drama doesn't need to be public. That's what bothered him the most. That I'd made it public. Not that they treated me like an unwanted burden. Not that I'd canceled payments they depended on. Not that I was done with all of it. Just that the relatives knew that people were finally calling them out. And they were calling them out. Aunt Linda was relentless. She started listing things she'd seen over the years. How Jessica got praised for showing up while I was criticized for not fitting in. How Dad once made me pay for my own birthday dinner. How he bragged about me paying off Jessica's tuition like he had done it. Uncle Mark, who I barely speak to, messaged me directly. Said he remembered Thanksgiving 2 years ago when I brought a pie and Jessica made fun of it. And Dad laughed. I barely remembered that myself, but he did. Then my cousin, sent me a voice message. She said, "We always sensed something was wrong, but seeing it all laid out like that was revolting. I'm sorry we stayed silent for so long." More details kept surfacing, not just fleeting anger, but years of being treated like an afterthought, finally exposed for everyone to see. I hadn't planned to spill everything. Honestly, I thought sending the photos would be enough. But once it started, something broke open, and I couldn't stop it. So, I sent the receipts. All of them. The $12,000 I paid for the car, title never transferred. He's still living in my house. The invoice for the watch, nearly $2,000, custom engraved, non-refundable. And screenshot after screenshot of bills I covered. Internet, water, electricity, Jessica's student loans, car insurance, medical copays, all tied to my name, my card, my address. The group chat went silent again, but it wasn't the same silence as before. This one felt heavy, like everyone was holding their breath. I sent one final message. The car's getting listed tomorrow. The watch is going to auction. I'm done pretending we're a family when it's always been one-sided. Good luck. Jessica read it. Dad read it. No reply. That silence was the first honest response I'd ever gotten from them. By the afternoon, I drafted listings for the car and booked a meeting with a local appraiser for the watch. I was done waiting, done hoping they'd change, that one more sacrifice or gesture would earn me a place in their world. Mom sat on the couch all day, mostly quiet. Around 3 p.m., while I was sorting through emails, she looked at me and said, "They'll show up here. You know that, right?" I did. The moment the relatives took my side, the moment their image took a hit, they'd panic. And when Dad panics, he gets theatrical. Jessica would bring tears, apologies, hugs, maybe even a pity post on Facebook about family drama and forgiveness. They didn't care about me. They cared about how it looked. For the first time, they couldn't spin the narrative. That night, I sat with my son, 13, sharp, quiet, and we watched a movie while I pretended I wasn't waiting for headlights in the driveway. They didn't show up that night, but I knew they would. And when they did, I'd be ready. They arrived the next afternoon, no warning, just tires crunching on gravel. I looked out the window, Jessica in the passenger seat of Dad's truck, both dressed in all black like they were attending a funeral. Mom was in the kitchen when they pulled in. She didn't look surprised, just set down her mug and asked, "You want me to stay or go?" I told her to stay, not for support, but because I didn't want to be alone in the house with them anymore. My son was upstairs, gaming with headphones on, oblivious to the storm about to walk in. I didn't want him dragged into this. Not yet. I opened the door before they could knock. Jessica held a cheap gift bag, probably something grabbed from a gas station. Dad wore that blank look he gets when he's about to lie. I didn't invite them in. Jessica started talking first, saying they'd talked it over, admitting some lines were crossed, and claiming they were here to fix things. It was so rehearsed, so fake, I almost laughed. But then something unexpected happened. Mom stepped into the hallway, silent, just standing there. Dad flinched, actually flinched. It was strange, like he was nervous for the first time. Jessica offered the gift bag like it would erase everything. I took it just to quiet her, but when I looked inside, I nearly laughed out loud. A cheap knockoff watch, the kind you'd find at an airport kiosk. No note, no price tag, just a pathetic attempt to mimic what I'd once planned to give them. I handed it back. Before I could say anything, there was a knock at the door behind them. We all turned. It was Nina and Aunt Linda, uninvited but standing on my porch like unasked for reinforcements. Suddenly, I didn't feel trapped. Jessica looked nervous now. Aunt Linda didn't wait for an invitation. She walked past them into the house like she owned it. Nina followed, giving me a small nod that said, "We've got you." Jessica tried to speak again, but Aunt Linda shut her down. "We're not doing this act. You don't get to play sorry after what you've done." Dad's face tightened, but he didn't argue. He glanced at Mom, maybe hoping she'd defend him. She didn't. They kept trying. Apologies, excuses about a tough year, pleas about families sticking together. Then came the bombshell. Nina looked at Jessica and said, "You're pregnant, aren't you?" I froze. Jessica froze. That silence wasn't guilt, it was panic. Aunt Linda's eyes darted between them. "That's why you wanted the car." Jessica didn't deny it. Suddenly, it all clicked. The desperation, the timing, why they thought they could push me aside and still take from me. They wanted the benefits without the relationship. They wanted my money, not me. Dad stared at the floor. Jessica mumbled something about not wanting to announce it yet. Too late. Mom didn't react. She just walked to the kitchen and put the kettle on like it was any other day. Aunt Linda gave me a look. Not smug, not vengeful, just done. I finally spoke. I said I was happy for Jessica, and I meant it. But I wasn't giving her a car just because she was pregnant. That's not how this works anymore. If she wants to be a mother, she can start by taking responsibility for herself. They stood there, realizing they had no script left, no sympathy to exploit, no image to salvage. Then Dad did something I didn't expect. He dropped to one knee, like this was some grand gesture. Jessica looked mortified. He said he was sorry, and for once, I believed he meant it, not out of guilt, but because he was out of moves. Jessica followed reluctantly, like she was forced. I didn't cry or gloat, just told them to get up. This wasn't about humiliation. I forgave them to move on, not because they deserved it. We sat at the table. When they left, I stood with Mom and Aunt Linda as the sun set. It should have been closure, but I felt hollow. That night, my son asked about going to the store for the new gaming console. I said yes, knowing it was already wrapped in my closet with clothes, shoes, and other things he'd love. That's where the car and watch money went, to give him the Christmas I never had. That was my real revenge. Their apologies didn't lighten me, they made me feel heavier. I'd carried their weight too long, hoping they'd love me back. They never did. Jessica acted like nothing happened, sending TikToks and emojis. Dad started checking in, but it was strategic for the family's eyes. I didn't engage, just gave short replies. I sold the car cheap to a single mom for her daughter and the watch to a collector. I took my son shopping, letting him fill the cart with the console, clothes, and a phone case he loved. I told him he earned it. Aunt Linda and Na invited me to a pre-holiday dinner. No Jessica or Dad. It wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about belonging. At the big family Christmas, Jessica and Dad didn't show. People noticed, some joked, but I didn't pile on. I just helped with dishes and joined conversations. Then, Jessica's letter arrived. She was pregnant, scared, and missed me. No manipulation, just raw words. I didn't know how to feel. Mom said, "Choose for you, not who you wish she was." A week later, Mom said they were coming. Jessica and Dad arrived, looking tired, no ego. They knelt again, no performance, just a quiet, "We're sorry." Jessica said she didn't expect forgiveness, just needed me to know. I told them to get up. I didn't need their humiliation. I forgave them to let go of hate, not to trust them. We had tea, made small talk, and they left. Mom asked if I was okay. I said yes, but I wasn't sure. My son asked why we didn't go to Grandpa's anymore. I said home should feel good, and it didn't. Watching him play with his new stuff, I knew I'd built a family where I came first. I forgave them, but I'm not going back. The door's not locked, but it's not open for just anyone.